so old.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for another round of Mind Your Puckin' Business with your host, Jeffrey Klinsman.
Thank you, Dougie Sticks, coming to you as always from the beautiful studios of Undefeated Media here in Bergen County, New Jersey. This is the Mind Your Puckin' Business podcast, brought to you by our good friends at the Bamboozle Project and DraftKings. We thank them for their sponsorship as always. We encourage you to check out the Bamboozle Project. A little spoiler alert, new gear or new MYPB items going on the site probably later this week. And when you're on the site, use promo code MYPB. Save yourself 25% off of the entire order. This is episode 127, Ciento Viente Siete, for those tuning in on the Spanish style.
Oh, man, you're getting good at this.
Getting silky smooth, baby. I got a lot of practice at it. So you can send your questions at any time to mypbshow@gmail.com, or the more popular way to get us, it seems these days in the digital era that we live in, is to use our Instagram page at Mind Your Puckin' Business. You can DM us there. I did promise we're going to take some viewer questions today. So we are going to do that for those that send stuff in. So we appreciate that. You can watch the show on camera feed if you'd like, live or on replay, actually on YouTube, or you can stream the show whenever you would like from whatever device you like to stream from. And you can do that on both the iTunes and Spotify platform, whatever is best for you. We give you plenty of options. You just need to pick one.
Everywhere.
You can find us wherever you are, and wherever you are in the world. If you have Wi-Fi internet or cell service or mobile service, as they call it in Europe, whatever it is, you can find us. So,
as Primetime says, we're not hard to find.
We're not hard to find. No, we're not. We're usually pretty consistent. All right. So right off the dot, we are out of preseason mode. We are into the regular season. And before we get into anything, I just feel like it needs to be said, thank God hockey's back. It has been 5 months. It will be actually 5 months and 11 days for the Rangers from when they played Game 7 in New Jersey to when they play their opening game Thursday night up in Buffalo. And I don't know why this year in particular, the offseason just seemed incredibly long. Normally, I find the offseason to go, like life moves in the summer, things go along and all that stuff. And, hockey's back and you're like, okay, it's cool. It's back. But like this year more than ever, I just kind of felt it was long. I'm happy it's back. And I know a lot of our listeners are from some of the stuff you guys have sent in this week. And we kind of share in your joy of it being back. Now, what was not joyful was to watch the Rangers in the preseason. They finished with a 1-5 record. Now, I cannot under any circumstance get concerned about it. We posted a poll on our Instagram page the other day and said to people, look, how concerned are you with the Rangers being 1-5? And I believe 9% of people had a legitimate concern. 91% of people kind of felt like, hey, you know what? It's the preseason. It's not really that important. We'll be okay. And that's kind of where I am too. I'm not going to look into it. Now, if the problems you see in the preseason are what we are seeing a month from now, sound the panic button. Hit the little thing that we used to joke about 2 years ago in Gerard Gallant's first year. It's time to panic. That's fair. But right now, you can't do it. So what are some of the concerns that came out of the preseason? Right off the dot is Jonathan Quick. Jonathan Quick did not have a good preseason, and all of a sudden you hear a ton of people who are saying, well, you know what, Jonathan Quick should just retire. Jonathan Quick, the game has passed him by. Hold on a second here, okay? Jonathan Quick last year was a steady backup for Vegas. He wasn't the main show there. Obviously, that was Aiden Hill who led them to the Cup in the spring. But Jonathan Quick was able to fulfill a backup role. I don't think the dude aged in 5 months so much that he cannot play the game anymore. The other thing that is very difficult with trying to judge goaltending either in a positive way or negative way in preseason is you don't have your normal top-line defense in front of you. Jonathan Quick in the first preseason game up in Boston when he let up 3 goals, I think they had Trouba and Schneider in, and the rest of them were all just, players you're never going to see. So I don't sound the alarm on Jonathan Quick. And the other thing is this: if you're of the notion that Jonathan Quick should retire, the Rangers should let him go, whatever it may be, who's your other option right now? it's not like you want to. I don't like this kid Dylan, whatever his name is in Hartford. I don't think he's ready for an NHL. I believe his record last year in Hartford was like 13-14 or 14-15. It was a game under 500. I don't like that at all. So that's one concern. But again, as a backup goalie, we've talked about this on the show a lot. If you can have a 500 record as a backup, you take your number one goalie and you don't play him for 20 games. If in your 20 games that you play, you can go 10-10, you sign for that. I still think that Jonathan Quick can do that. We'll see if I'm right about that as the season goes on. Lafreniere. There has been, and I said this to my son this morning, actually, because we were talking about the podcast, and I said, man, I am so tired, Tyler, of talking about Alexis Lafreniere. It is unbelievable. Like I just can't do it anymore about getting him off the third line and all that stuff. Lafreniere had a horrific preseason. And as bad as his preseason was on the ice, some of the stuff you read coming out from like the beat writers and stuff, and some of the way he's been acting and maybe the views that the club seems to have of him is more concerning. But Lafreniere should hopefully get a chance here to hopefully get top 6 minutes somehow. The Rangers still have not said anything about their lines, and you're probably knowing the New York Rangers and the way they work. You're probably not going to know definitively until Thursday night at 7:10 when the puck drops in Buffalo. But, Lafreniere, and a lot of people said this on an over-under clip that we posted last night, like a lot of people, and it's been really repetitive in some of the comments, is that if Lafreniere doesn't have a good season this year, if this isn't the year he goes over his expectation, and I believe we put the over-under on Lafreniere was 41.5 points, and I took the over. But if it is the under, as someone said this morning, if Lafreniere is invisible this year, he's not even going to be on the roster next year. And that's a fair point to say that he might not be. He's on a 2-year deal. So Lafreniere needs to show up. Not a great preseason for him. Line combinations. As I said, the Rangers just being typical, they don't say anything. You can try and guess what they're going to do with the beat writers that post, this is what they're doing today in practice. But then usually the next day it's completely different. So I'm not going to really read into it if it's changing daily. When I know that you're going to get the definitive answer on what they feel is the best line combinations on Thursday night up in Buffalo. All right. I think that's a wrap on preseason. I don't want to go too crazy into it.
So during the preseason, you couldn't really get a grasp of what the line's going to be, which is a good thing, right? They were trying new combinations.
They're trying new combinations. And look, I say this all the time with line combos. It's never set in stone or set in concrete, right? It changes. You can change it throughout. Gerard Gallant is an example of that last year, always changing the lines. So whatever they start with on Thursday, chances are, 2 Thursdays from now, or maybe even next Thursday when they play Nashville at the Garden, it's probably different then. But it's just be curious to see like the logic the first night to say, okay, without knowing what's going to happen in a regular season game, this is what we think is the best situation. I would think, all signs point to the top line being Zibanejad, Kreider, and Kakko, and I'm okay with it. Look, I campaigned, we had that post, and I said the one thing I would maybe do different there would put Lafreniere up on the top line left wing, but certainly if you keep Kreider there, I can't argue it, and I understand. So I like that top line, but then you get into unknowns, like is Philip Hedl in the second line center, or is it Vincent Trocheck? Is Lafreniere going to go up to the third line? Where is Blake Wheeler? Blake Wheeler, everyone is sitting here saying, well, Blake Wheeler's got to be on a top 6 line. No, or top 6 spot. No, he doesn't. He's on an $800,000 contract. He's not expected to sit here and put in, 70 points. If he does, great. That's awesome. It's a bonus. But it's not what he was brought in here to do. So he can be on a third line. And same with Vincent Trocheck. That's another thing. People said, well, you signed him to this huge deal last year. You can't have a guy like that on the third line. Yeah, you can. Look where Barclay Goodrow is probably going to be, which was a terrible contract. And I said it the day that he was signed. And I know Chris, who's watching, because I see his comments, we talk about this all the time. The Barclay Goodrow contract was terrible. And as Dan Rosen said, they would have moved him in the offseason if they could find someone to take on that contract, but no one would do it because the contract was so bad. So it'll be interesting to see that. So that's a wrap for preseason. I think what you have to, and we'll get into predictions and all that stuff in a couple minutes, but one thing that you can see that was definitely prevalent here in the preseason was that there needs to be patience in learning a new system. Peter Laviolette is installing a completely different system than what Gerard Gallant played. And you could argue from some of the things you've heard from the players that Gerard Gallant really didn't have a quote-unquote system at all. But you have to be patient here, especially in the first week or two going forward, or even the first month or two, that players need to get acclimated to the new system. So before we get into my prediction for the team, and I'm going to give you my Stanley Cup prediction and all that good stuff, and we'll get into football, I did promise to take some questions from people, and I'm going to take a couple of them that were sent in yesterday. I can't get to them all, obviously, or else we'd be here for longer than we need to be. But I'm going to take a couple questions, and the first one is, I decided to take it even though it is literally my least favorite question to answer anymore, and that is the whole question of, is this finally the year that Lafreniere and Kakko break out? What do you think, Dougie Sticks?
Man, the preseason didn't look too good, so hope so. I mean, this is the time they need to, and they also need to get some playing time with some. They need to be able to. They need the room and space to be able to perform.
I'm going to give you. I'll answer that question. Will Lafreniere and Kakko finally live up to their draft status, which was the way that the question was worded to us? I'm going to give you a hot take. I thought, and I wanted to come on today for the last couple months when we did the season preview and all that stuff. I wanted to say this was the year of Lafreniere. I wanted to do it in the worst way, but I'm going to give you a hot take. You ready?
Yep.
It's not going to be the year of Lafreniere. I'm sorry. It's going to be the year of Kaapo Kakko, because Kaapo Kakko, if you look at the two of them, and you say which is better suited to have a breakout year or finally live up to their draft status, it's Kaapo Kakko. It's Kaapo Kakko for sure, especially if he's given top-line right-wing minutes and he's playing with Zibanejad and Kreider, he's going to have a chance to put up points. And we don't have a clue where Lafreniere is going to play. I'd like to think he's going to be on the second line right wing, but, man, I wouldn't be surprised in the least if he's on the third line on Thursday night again. So I think this is the year that Kakko breaks out, and it is not the year that Lafreniere breaks out. And I wanted so badly for months to tell you that it was going to be Lafreniere, and some of the things I've seen in preseason I have read makes me go back on my statement. I'm not going to say it.
Oh, man.
But I'd love to be wrong, right? So we'll see on that one. So the next question was kind of a non-related Ranger question, but I wanted to take it because it was an interesting one. Hellebuck, which is Connor Hellebuck, is the goaltender in Winnipeg. And there have been, I don't want to say rumors, but there's been rumblings that next year when he's in his free agent year, the Devils would try and get him because, the Devils are not really sure with Vitek Vanacek and Akira Schmidt, although our executive producer over here seems to think Akira Schmidt is the next Martin Brodeur. So Hellebuck got 7-year contract the other day at $8.5 million. Does Igor best both of those numbers, one of those numbers, or neither? So Igor has 2 years left on his contract. I said to someone, and I believe it was Chris who's watching, I said the other day, look, you have to be concerned that 2 years from now, Igor picks up and leaves, right? It has to be in the back of your head. Maybe it's not a reality. Maybe the odds aren't in the favor that that's going to happen, but it has to be a concern that your franchise goaltender and your best player is going to pick up and leave. And Chris wasn't as concerned about it. So do I think he's going to get those numbers? Yes. I think if you're Igor Shesterkin and you're Chris Drury of the Rangers, if you don't have a good 2 years here and you've got to convince Igor to stay, and maybe you don't have to do a lot of convincing, but you're going to be paying him that type of money. Igor Shesterkin is a better goalie than Connor Hellebuck, and Igor Shesterkin will know, and his agent will know in negotiations, hey, look at what this guy got playing in Winnipeg, and I'm better than him, and I'm a lot younger too, so he's going to best those numbers. So we'll see. I don't want to pull up that comment. We'll wait on that comment for a little bit. All right, last question I'm going to get to before we get into season predictions and all that good stuff. A hot take: the Toronto Maple Leafs will not make it past the second round for the next 5 to 10 years. That would be a problem if you were Toronto, for sure. If you don't get past the second round in the next 5 or 10 years. So last year they finally got out of the first round. They beat Tampa and then went on to lose to the eventual Stanley Cup finalist, Florida Panthers, in 5 games. Toronto will get out of the second round. They have to at some point. And I actually think they're going to win that division. So I think they're going to have a chance. I mean, but again, we know in the playoffs, anything can happen. But I do like Toronto to get out of the second round. I'm not sure I would agree with that. All right. So are you ready, sir?
Yeah.
Predictions. Okay. Here are Here is my prediction for the Rangers season and where they're going to end up and how it's going to go. It's a total crapshoot making predictions. You can't predict injuries. You can't predict trades. You can't predict other teams, surprise teams, disappointing teams, etc. But here's my prediction for them. We've talked, this is episode number 127 for us, right? And if you go back, I'm pretty sure, and you look at the first episode in August of 2020, when the studio looked different and all that stuff, we used the term called window of opportunity, and we still use it today, right? And the whole definition or meaning of the term is very simple. Your window of opportunity to win a cup only stays open for so long. And every year it gets a little bit closer to being closed and closed and closed until you need to reset things and reopen the window. Unless you get lucky. Sometimes teams can get lucky, but normally that's how it works. The window of the opportunity for the Rangers is getting a lot shorter. And if it doesn't happen now with this group, or maybe the next year, 2024, 2025, I'm not so sure I'm confident it's going to happen. So my prediction is this. We've talked about with some guests that the Metropolitan Division, there are two teams that I think are a step above the other 6 teams, and that is the Carolina Hurricanes and the New Jersey Devils. I think in some way, shape, or form, they finish 1-2. Maybe the Hurricanes come in first, maybe the Devils come in first, but whoever comes in first, the other one comes in second. I think the Rangers are class 2 of the division, and I don't think there's another class 2 team. So I have the Rangers finishing third in the Metro, meaning this. Either you are headed to a first-round rematch with the New Jersey Devils if they finish second, or you're headed for a rematch from 2 years ago with the Carolina Hurricanes if they finish second. I think for sure, I don't want to say for sure, but I think the odds are that the Rangers finish in third in the Metro. Now, can the Rangers exceed that expectation? Of course. I am not entirely sold on the hype on the New Jersey Devils. I think in some way there's a chance they regress. It's going to be a lot harder for them to keep up that pace that they did last year, especially when Lindy Ruffs told Dan Rosen, who was on with us over the summer, hey, we're not expecting to see other teams' backup goaltenders now. Target's on our back. It's going to be a lot harder. So can the Devils regress a little bit? Vitek Vanacek, let's see how he responds from a bad playoff performance. Could the Rangers pass the Devils in that sense? Of course, they could. They could finish second. Could they finish first and pass both those teams? Yeah, they could. I don't know that I would bet on it, but I would think if I was betting for the Rangers, I think they finish third in the Metro. Then you get into the Stanley Cup playoffs. Right now, trying to predict this in April is nearly impossible, but I'm going to give you my guess on how it's going to go. And as I've always said here on Mind Your Puck and Business, we are not paid to be homers. We're not. We're not paid to come here and just say the Rangers are going to go 82-0, and then they're going to win all 16 games in the playoffs and win the Stanley Cup easily, because it's a waste of time. It's a waste of my time. It's a waste of your time. It's a waste of your time who's out there listening. So we're not going to do that. I'm not a homer. I think the Rangers. Yes, we know this with you. You still seem to think the Giants are going to the Super Bowl here in Vegas in February. Which we'll get to in the NFL in a minute. I think that the Rangers certainly have the ability to win a first-round series versus Carolina or the Devils. And when you have a 2-3 series, as you saw last year with the 7-game series, it's a coin flip, right? The Rangers can win a first-round series. I would say this. Do I think the Rangers are going to win the Stanley Cup this year? No, I don't. Would I be entirely shocked if they did? No. Do I think they're a decent bet in Vegas? And we're sponsored by DraftKings. Do I think they're a decent bet in Vegas to take a flyer on them? Yes. Why? Igor Shesterkin. The recipe for teams, whoever wins the Stanley Cup every year is the same. The goaltender carries him. The Rangers have a goaltender, probably one of the top 3, if not maybe arguably the best goaltender in the NHL. He's already won the Vezina. So your goaltending can carry you. So do I think that they'll win the Stanley Cup? No. My guess would be this. If you told me I had to predict how the Ranger season will go, they finish third in the Metro, they win 2 rounds, and they lose again in the Eastern Conference Finals. That's my guess. Could they go further than that? Yes. Now, let me say this, because this pisses me off. Did I tell you, I don't remember on this, did I talk about the hibachi story from the summer with me? Because this is exactly where I'm going. So we were at a hibachi restaurant for my son's birthday back in August. Yeah. I didn't tell you this? I don't think I
vaguely familiar,
okay.
But
I don't think
at home.
I don't think I did. Well, it's Ranger related. This is exactly what I'm going.
I want to see how you're going to make hibachi Ranger.
No. It's Ranger related. We're sitting at a hibachi table.
Oh, I think I remember now.
Okay. And I'm wearing like a Ranger shirt, right?
Yeah.
It's like Saturday night. It's blazing hot outside, and these people are like spewing fire in our face with a flaming volcano, right? So I'm sitting in a Ranger shirt, and I was the lucky person in our party that got to sit next to the random person next to you that you don't know. I'll do it, right? It's fine. No big deal. Okay. So the guy sitting next to me starts talking about the Rangers because he sees that I'm in a Ranger shirt.
Yeah.
So we start talking whatever. And I mentioned, we do the podcast, whatever, and he's all into it. He's looking at the Instagram thing and thing. He goes, you need to talk to my daughter who's sitting at the end of the table. Now, his daughter is like 20-something years old. So it's not like he doesn't have the same age kids as mine. So I said, well, why? He said, she is convinced that the Rangers are not going to make the playoffs. I said, what? So I said, bring her over. So she comes over, and I said to her, I said, look, can you explain to me your reason? I want to know the reason why you think the Rangers are not going to make the playoffs. Because if you think, like, if Igor got hurt, knock on wood, something like that, well, then, yeah, it's possible. But we don't go off of that. She goes, well, I just think that they're old, and the defense isn't good, and the goaltending is overrated. I said, look, you've got a top, again, 3 goaltender in the league. He can get you into the playoffs. You still have players like Zibanejad, Kreider, Panarin. Kako, I think, is going to be pretty good. You've got a decent, fourth line guys that got a little improved now with Nick Bonino, I think is a good signing. And you also still have Adam Fox. You have Lindgren, who's pretty good. You have Trouba. This is a playoff team. I'm not saying it's a guaranteed cup, right? But so I'm not buying. Where I'm getting at is there's this notion of people, and a lot of people have said it to us on Instagram, they're not going to make the playoffs this year. Let me explain. If the Rangers don't make the playoffs this year, and it's not because, if someone gets hurt, that's one thing. But if they stay healthy and they don't make the playoffs, Chris Drury should be fired immediately, and Peter Laviolette should be fired immediately, and we're starting over in a year. This team has too much talent to not make the playoffs.
True.
I mean, I do not understand that logic at all. And it almost irritates me.
Yeah. I think the Rangers are going to have a slow start. I think they're going to come out a little slow. I think the Devils are going to come out hot, and then they're going to flip-flop. The Rangers are going to end real hot. The Devils are going to slow it down, and they're both going to meet each other.
So
in the
before
Eastern Conference Finals.
Well, you can't meet. Well, you could meet in the Eastern Conference Finals, I guess, if one team was a wild card. But before you rolled into the studio this morning.
Yes.
True story. B-Rock and I were talking out in the hall, and we talked about how the Devils do have an easier schedule to start the season. So that would back up your claims. I'm sure you didn't know that.
That's exactly why I said it.
I'm sure you didn't know that, but
Devils are going to come out hot. Rangers are going to come out slow. They're going to flip-flop.
Ranger fans, I think, are the worst fan base of all the teams that I root for. That they panic like instantly. So watch. Thursday night they lose in Buffalo. Yeah. And they could lose, right? I mean, I think the DraftKings odds is almost like a pick'em game. So you could easily lose, right? If they lose Thursday night, go on to Instagram on like our page and some of the other Ranger pages that are good. People will be seasons over. They suck. The coach suck. You need to have patience more this year than last year because you have a new coach. And it's hard to do, right? Like it's not easy because you're going to be geared up for Thursday night because it's the opener. And if your hopes are just, slaughtered, you're going to be upset. Like 3 years ago in the COVID season. Great story for Ranger fans. Great reminder, right? So the Rangers opened on my birthday, January 14th, because this was the COVID season, like 3 years ago, right? We're all locked in our house. There are no fans in the building. So I couldn't go. And they opened versus the Islanders on my birthday. And so we had at home, we made like a Ranger cake. Like we were so jacked up for the game. It was incredible, right? The Rangers got blasted. I think they lost the home opener that night, maybe 6-0 in 2021. I think they lost 6-0 home to the Islanders. So, you're going to lose games, but Ranger fan base, out of all the ones I root for, will panic more than anyone you know. So, let's take Chris's comment before we get into the other stuff. The last one, I just can't see it. But you didn't think the other New York team was just as good of a goalie won't make it. I don't think the Islanders will make it, Chris. The Islanders don't have the firepower. They have Barzal and Lee. I don't like their defensive core as much, and I'm not as sold on their coach, even though Lane Lambert is a Barry Trotz disciple. Chris has been on, and this will be an interesting bet, and you guys can follow along with Chris and I. We've kind of disputed this. I do not think the Islanders are making the playoffs. It's not to say I think they're terrible, but I don't think they're making the playoffs. I think the Islanders also get hurt that they play in a very good division and a good conference overall. Because if the Islanders are going to get a wild card slot, if you're not getting in the top 3, you're competing with some pretty good teams in the Atlantic. And Buffalo and Ottawa in the Atlantic are going to be teams that are going to surprise people. Like, I don't know what their over-under points are. And you don't need to pull it up, but Chris is commenting about Bo Horvat. I know he's got he did not do well last year. Maybe he's more situated, but until he does well, I can't sit here and buy Bo Horvat there. Until I see something, I haven't seen anything yet. It's like Kevin Jurek on the puck buddies. You know what I mean? Until you start seeing wins, you don't know. You can't buy into the hype until you start seeing results.
True.
So
very true.
All right. Cup predictions. We're going to go around the league. Stanley Cup prediction for this year.
Mm-hmm.
I think this is the year, and I would be fine with this.
Mm-hmm.
I want it to be the Rangers, but I can live with this.
Okay.
I wouldn't mind seeing the Edmonton Oilers win the Stanley Cup. They are Connor McDavid. I like a lot. I don't like when you play against him. He had that highlight reel goal against the Rangers 2 years ago where he zigzagged through the entire team. But I think this is the year Edmonton finally gets over the hump. I think the Western Conference, if you look at the two conferences, the Eastern Conference is loaded more with talent. So it would be an easier path for any team to get through the West. I do think Dallas is pretty good. Obviously, Vegas is still up there. But there are some weaker teams out West. And I just think at some point, a great elite generational player like Connor McDavid is going to be able to get his team through and over the next step, kind of like Sidney Crosby did, generational player, kind of like Alexander Ovechkin did. At some point, I don't know if you would say Jonathan Toews is a generational player. I probably wouldn't, but good players can catapult you and carry you on your back. And the country of Canada has not won a Stanley Cup since 1993 when Montreal won it. So the country is due. I am going to predict that the Stanley Cup Finals is going to feature the Edmonton Oilers versus the Carolina Hurricanes. And I think the Edmonton Oilers get over the hump. And why am I picking Carolina? Carolina last year lost to Florida in the Eastern Conference Finals. They got swept. Now, Rod Brindamore came out and said, well, it didn't feel like we got swept. And he's right, because all these games were close. Kachuk won the series in game 4 with like 5 seconds left on an even strength goal. But besides that, I just think Carolina at some point also has all this talent. There has to be a year where they break through. Rod Brindamore is a very good coach. The more experience you get, the better. So my Stanley Cup prediction, if I had to predict it today, I'm taking the Edmonton Oilers over the Carolina Hurricanes.
All right.
What are you taking?
So, like I said before, Rangers Devils Finals, Eastern Conference Finals. The Rangers will get over that hump because the Devils need a little bit more experience.
Okay.
Then the Rangers are going to play the Oilers and win the Stanley Cup Final.
So I'll tell you something really funny about your pick. I love doing this when a season starts.
Yes.
You type in like NHL predictions in Google and you look to see like what all the experts on all different websites are picking. And I looked at a ton of them. There was only one expert that picked the Rangers to win the cup, and it was over Edmonton. Like you.
Yeah. We're smart.
You should, or maybe it was you incognito. You're really an NHL expert. That was your article, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think that's what it was. So we shall see. The Rangers open Thursday night up in Buffalo. They stay on the road on Saturday. They go out to Columbus, and then they come home for the home opener Monday night at MSG. I'm still up on the fence if I'm going to go or not. I haven't decided yet. They start Monday night at home versus Arizona Coyotes. And then they're home Thursday versus Nashville, and then they're on the road for like 2 weeks. So it's a hard start, right? You're trying to implement a new system. Buffalo's not going to be easy to start, and then you're on the road for 2 weeks after coming home for 2. So it's not going to be an easy start. So you almost kind of look at it and say, do you expect rocky waters out of the get-go? No, but you got to be able to live with it if it happens, and you kind of understand why. So there we go.
Nice.
Well, at least it's back, right? At least hockey is back. For sure. So before we get into the NFL season is going strong, and DraftKings Sportsbook is hooking new customers up like Kurt from New Jersey with an offer that's even stronger. Bet $5 on any game this week to score $200 instantly in bonus bets. And DraftKings is not stopping there. All customers can take advantage of a sweeter offer every game this October. You can wager, for example, 6.5 over under total goals in the Rangers game on a Thursday night in Buffalo, or even a plus a bet. You can even place a bet who will win the Stanley Cup. Like if you know who's going to win the Stanley Cup, when I thought it was Edmonton, but like let's say you know definitively, you can go right on DraftKings and do that. Get in the game day greatness. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use special code THPN. New customers can score $200 instantly in bonus bets when you bet $5 on the NFL. That's code THPN only on DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit 1-800-GAMBLER.net. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY. In Connecticut, help is available for problems gambling. Call 888-789-777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So if you DraftKings, I have never been, hockey is my favorite sport, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
I've never loved betting on hockey. I find it a very difficult sport to bet on.
Mm-hmm.
There used to be a bet, and I don't know if they still have it. This was probably 15 years ago. There used to be a bet called Grand Salami in hockey, and it would only come up on Saturdays. And it took every game in the league,
Mm-hmm.
and it would be an over-under for total goals in the league. So it would be like 77.5 goals in the league. And the under almost always won because all you would need in all those games was one or two goalies to have a shutout and screw the over-under down to be an under. It was definitely not 50-50. The under won a lot more, but I can never find it anymore. I think Vegas caught on. Like it was not a fair bet for them, or other people caught on. So NFL picks. Last week, we had a much better week. You, sir, you owe me a Dunkin' Donuts iced tea.
I do.
That one was not close. So we had the Bears plus +7 Thursday night, and the Bears ended up winning by 20, and they were getting 7 points. The one we had wrong overseas, we had the Bills -5.5 against Jacksonville in London. Jacksonville somehow won that game outright. And the Falcons -1 at home in Houston. They barely covered. The Jets +2 in Denver, that hit, and then the Steelers +4.5 at home. So it's interesting. The teams that we had last week all getting points. The Bears +7, the Jets +2, and the Steelers +4.5. They all won the game outright. They didn't even need the points.
Yeah, so you should have bet the money line. You get a little extra bucks.
If you had parlayed the money line with the teams getting points, you would be a happy.
I think I bet the Jets. I think I bet the Jets on that.
You would be. You wouldn't be as happy as winning the mega or
Powerball.
Powerball.
Money line. Oh yeah, absolutely.
You had the Jets money line +2.
No, I took the money line. I
didn't
take the plus.
Okay.
Yeah.
So just look at you.
Yeah. Let's see. And I also been starting to play some daily fantasy.
Really?
I think I won $50 off a $3 entry.
Where you enter your lineup?
Yeah, you enter your lineup. It's daily. So I picked the 1 o'clock. I picked the Sunday games, and I believe I won like $50 off a $3 entry.
Wow.
Yeah.
So I used to do that. That was when sports gambling wasn't legal and you could do the daily fantasy. And I was just always awful. It was just awful. Chris is saying a good bet as well, over under shots by any player. Chris and I do play that sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
I remember last year we would look at Panarin in particular, Chris, and we would bet on that. So, all right.
Yes, I did win the Jets.
You did?
I took the money line.
You're rich.
Yeah.
You are a rich
Paid
man.
out $42.
Rich man.
Yeah.
I like it. I like it. All right, so here are our Week 6 picks for Mind Your Puckin' Business. I like the 49ers -5 at the Browns. I'm now sold on the 49ers. I'm sold on them -5. Cleveland is not good. That's not a lot of points for the difference in talent between those teams. Give me the 49ers -5. I like the Dolphins -13.5 at home versus the Panthers. Again, it's a lot of points. The Panthers have not won. The Dolphins are just scoring at will, and I don't know how the Panthers are going to keep up with that. So I think they can certainly have a larger margin than 13.5. I'm taking the Dolphins -13.5. I'm going to buy the Zach Wilson train. +6.5 at home versus the Eagles. Do I think they win the game versus Philadelphia? Probably not. But I do think that they can keep it close, and I think there's some mojo. And Philly, and I don't want to take anything away because you only play who you play. They don't look that great to me. Like, I'm not stunned by how good they look. Give me the Jets getting 6.5 at home. This one hurts. I don't want to do this, but I'm going to do it. I'm taking the Bills -14 at home on Sunday night versus the Giants. I hate taking teams giving so many points, but the Bills can score. Their offense is clicking. They're pissed off because they just lost in London last week, and the Giants are absolutely awful. Both sides of the ball.
Not even going to argue that.
Yeah. So now, how the Bills could win this game 45-10. I only got to give 14 points. Diggs, Allen, Gabe Davis, that whole offense up there. on primetime national game, which is going to be huge
We
for
don't even know
Buffalo.
if you have Daniel Jones because he's got that neck issue.
Yeah, give me the Bills -14 at home versus the Giants. Last one, I'm playing the Monday night game next week. Give me the Chargers +2 at home versus Dallas. Dallas is not as bad as they looked in San Francisco the other day. However, the Chargers are coming off a bye. They've been playing well. The offense has been pretty good. Keenan Allen's having a great year. Herbert's having a great year. Eckler, all those guys, and they're getting points at home in a national game. Give me the Chargers +2. So to recap the picks, give me the 49ers -5 at Cleveland, Dolphins -13.5 at home versus the Panthers, the Jets +6.5 at home versus the Eagles, the Bills at home -14 Sunday night primetime versus the New York Football Giants, and the Chargers +2 at home versus the Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah, that's 100% right. I might even take the money line on the Jets because I think they might shock the world.
Can the Jets?
Yes, is it our only hope?
The Jets, well, they are your only hope because it's not going to come from the Giants.
Mm-hmm.
The Jets, before Aaron Rodgers got hurt in the summer, there's a
Mm-hmm.
clip. We said the biggest hurdle the Jets were going to face all season, not knowing that their quarterback was going to have an Achilles injury in the first game, was that their schedule was so tough in the beginning, right? If they can somehow, if Zach Wilson can navigate this to be a kind of situation here where they can come 3-4, 4-4 out of the first 8 and then go into an easier point of the schedule, they can make the playoffs.
Yeah, I believe they will. Like the clip I showed you this morning about, they got ripped off against the Chiefs. They, the refs helped them out on that one, or helped the Chiefs out on that one. Hopefully the refs don't do that to them at the Eagles or with the Eagles. The interesting question is, because they had they don't have a choice. Like Zach Wilson's playing, like he might, start to pick on. Might to pick it up and start to get better and better and better. The interesting question would be, let's say they go to the playoffs and they win a playoff game or two. What do you think Zach Wilson's future is? Obviously, Aaron Rodgers is playing over Zach Wilson, no matter what even if he wins the Super Bowl, Aaron Rodgers is coming back, right?
Yep.
But like, do you trade him?
Well, actually, hold on. I think if he wins a Super Bowl, that may be the one situation he doesn't.
The only situation.
Yeah. Well, maybe. I think if he wins a Super Bowl, I don't know how you win a Super Bowl as a starting quarterback and then get benched. I don't know. But if he wins a playoff game, he's not the quarterback next year. You're right on that.
One playoff game.
Yeah.
What if he wins 2 playoff games?
He's not. He's not.
3 playoff games.
But what will happen is say he won one playoff game, right?
Mm-hmm.
Here's the positive for him. He gets the New York Jets fan base off his ass.
True.
Right?
Well,
and it's a win, and you feel better about his future.
I'm talking bigger, like career-wise. Like right now, if it's a season where end right now, Aaron Rodgers comes back and he just goes out to the darkness, right? Because no team's going to want him, right? But let's say he progresses, right? And like the game yesterday or this week, the defense kind of won that game where they stripped the ball, they got the ball.
So the defense wins the game.
Yeah.
We were out actually, and I was trying to follow the game like on my phone, and I saw they had the ball, and someone wrote in the group chat I was in that don't let Zach throw the ball because it'll get picked off. Just run the ball. And what happens? Zach throws the ball and gets picked off. I mean, it was like the guy had the playbook of knew exactly what the Jets would do because Jet fans know to expect the worst, and you know what to expect with Zach Wilson. But yeah, no, you're right. I mean, the defense, they're going to have to do it with the defense.
Yeah.
Because,
But what I'm saying is, if the defense carries you the whole season, you win a finals of some sort. Do you keep a job? Are you NFL relevant, or no matter what happens, if you don't win a Super Bowl, you're going to fade out into the darkness?
I think it is possible.
Okay.
I don't know. I think you have to really take a look at what you have, how he does. Forget wins and losses, because yes, that matters. But if you want to talk about evaluating his future, to what you said a couple minutes ago, did he progress during the year is the key.
Yeah. It's a shame. Sam Darnold, Zach Wilson, we get these top 5 pick quarterbacks, and we're not really grooming them.
You
the way they
were
should be.
not to go back to
Groomed.
like you know where I'm going. Not to go.
No, you could say it.
Not to go back to like rehash painful memories for you.
Yeah.
But I've never met in his Jet career a bigger Sam Darnold fan than you. I mean, you were literally like if there was a page on Facebook and there might be like the unofficial Sam Darnold fan club, you had to have been the moderator.
So it's not that I'm a big fan of Sam Darnold. I was not a fan of how they used him. How they like it's a similar thing that's going on with Daniel Jones. Daniel Jones is getting all the heat, but he's not. He's getting sacked every play. You know what I mean? He's not that you know, we're so quick to throw quarterbacks away.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, we don't look at like the line, for example. It's always the quarterback's responsibility, whether the line is good or not. Right. And, you know, I just bought a Sam Darnold jersey and, you know, they traded him, that was, I have a Daniel Jones jersey. He's got a neck injury. Maybe I should stop buying jerseys.
You are the kiss of death. Do not get a Ranger jersey, please.
I had a Rodgers jersey.
Can I buy you a Devils jersey?
I had a couple of days before I went to the Bills game. I got a Rodgers jersey. So maybe I should stop buying jerseys.
I think you should buy a Devils jersey. Pre-Rocco, but I ain't liking that at all. All right, well, that's a wrap for us. Happy hockey's back. We're taping this on Tuesday the 10th, so hockey actually starts tonight. The Panthers play the Lightning to kick off the NHL season. So even if you want to just watch some real speed hockey and you're into that, you can certainly do so today. The Rangers will open Thursday night in Buffalo and then head to Columbus on Saturday night. So you'll have something there because, again, on Saturday, as it does every weekend around here, it rains. So you'll have something to do there. We thank our sponsors, the Bamboozle Project. You can use your promo code MYPB. Save yourself 25%. We thank DraftKings as well for their sponsorship. We appreciate you guys for listening. Send us your questions. We got to some of them today. I apologize we didn't get to them all. We will try to get to more next week. And enjoy the return of Rangers hockey as well as NFL Week 6. We'll talk to you next week.